Hi guys, welcome back to my How to Start a Young Horse series where you can follow along on our first show that we went to. This was just a small local show in Pinehurst, North Carolina. We just trailered in and out in the same day. And I usually pick Pinehurst as a spot for young horses to go because it's wide open. It's a harness racetrack. They can see everything. It's very friendly for young horses. And as you can see, when we got there, Dubs was very, very, very excited. He was like flying a 17 one-hand kite and snorting and flagging his tail and just couldn't believe his eyes at what was happening. So we just stood there for a little while and let him see the sights. And then my plan was to walk him with his buddy all the way around the track, so we didn't get near the arenas because competition was going on and I didn't want to disturb anyone's ride with him snorting and acting a fool. So we tried to start walking around the edge of the track, and as you can see, he's still super excited, staring off at everything, wanting to kind of spin around me and then wanting to stop and just stare. So I let him just stop and stare for the most part. I wanted him to get to the point where he would like to graze, because as soon as they'll graze and put their head down and release endorphins, I think they'll calm down. So I'm very much a fan of letting him graze. But at this point, he couldn't possibly graze. He would do that. He would grab a bite and then he would lurch up and spin around me and then stop. So we just tried to go with his buddy and walk around the whole track. His buddy is a 6-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred who's at his first competition. And if I had this whole experience to do again, maybe I'd bring him with an older, more experienced horse, because his buddy was also quite nervous. And we also arrived at the track and I thought maybe it wasn't the smartest thing that I brought an off-the-track thoroughbred to a racetrack. But he settled down pretty quickly. So now at this point, Dubs is beginning to walk a little more flat-footed, still pretty excited, still wanting to spin around me. And he is still nervous enough that I don't feel like I can ask him a lot of questions, like groundwork questions, halt, walk with me, halt again, back up, because he's just too excited. So he's being well enough behaved that I'm not in any danger, but I can't really work him yet. So then I had to work the buddy and show him. So I went ahead and started lunging the buddy, and Sierra, my working student, handled Dubs. And now it's been about 30 minutes since we arrived, and now he's finally relaxing enough that he'll graze. So we're down at the other end of the infield lunging, where they allow lunging, and the rest of the show is going on up at the other end of the track. So he's still seeing everything, but he's kind of in a quiet little space here and grazing, and that's great. That means he can start to take a breath and see everything. So Sierra handled him very well while I was riding the other horse and just let him graze and walked with him. Side note, because of COVID, we have to wear masks all the time, and I found that he was more nervous when I had my mask on. If I would pull my mask down and he could see my face, he actually responded a little better to me. So that's just an interesting side note, that they really do read our emotions. So then when I was done with the buddy, then finally it was Dub's turn to do a little something, and he was quiet enough at that point that I thought I could lunge him. So I put him on the lunge line with tack, but I wasn't planning to get on him, so I took the stirrups off. And I let him first lunge with no side reins, because I thought if he wants to really leap and buck, I don't want to have side reins on him, at least just for a couple minutes. And he did. He wanted to wag his head around and sort of lurch around. So by the time he finally started to settle here a little bit with no side reins, then I paused and put some side reins on to get him to actually start working a little bit over his back. But I'm a big believer when they're this excited that just a few minutes without side reins is a good idea, so that they can look around any way they want to go. And as long as he's not endangering himself or me or any of the other riders at the show, I'm going to let him just really get some energy out. Again, when he's this excited, he's not at a point in lunging that I could start doing transitions, right? That I could say, okay, we're going to trot and we're going to walk and we're going to trot and we're going to spiral in and spiral out. He's too excited. He needs to just get energy out. But if he were so crazy that he was going to fall down, or I was worried that he was going to get away from me, then I might hand walk him for longer. But he's not that crazy. He's not going to fall down, but he is just needing to run. And so luckily it was quite a cool day after having a week of terrible heat. It was quite a cool day, which is nice, because if it were one of those 100-degree days, I would worry about him really overheating from this much exertion. But it was only like in the high 70s. So I just really let him get some energy out. When he finally stopped wanting to put his chin on his chest and buck and gallop off, then when I see him begin to settle, that's when I'm going to start asking him some questions. So I'm still letting him just go, just get that energy out. Horses need to move. They feel better in their body by moving. We often want them to calm down in their brain by standing still, but that is not how their brain works. They calm down and they understand the world through movement. So he needs to move. So I'm letting him canter. We do have side reins on now. He does have to work over his back a little bit, but now that he's starting to relax a little bit, I can do a transition down to trot here, and then I can begin to ask him to go a little bit more of a relaxed tempo in trot, and then I'll start to ask him some questions that actually turn his attention more and more to me and get him to answer things like a transition down to walk, spiraling the circle in a little bit, pushing it back out a little bit. So it's good that he's getting a little tired. That is the point. That is my plan, is to make him a little bit tired, because when he finally gets a little bit tired, he's gonna look to me for a little bit of advice finally. You also have to take into account the horse's individual personality. So this horse is very self-assured. If he were the kind of horse that were not self-assured and extremely nervous, then I might go ahead and do some more questions on the ground. But he needed to just run a little bit, get that energy out. And now that you can see he's starting to finally look like his muscles are tired, now I'm going to ask him questions. Walk with me, trot with me, pay attention. And he's really settling quite well here. It would be tempting maybe now to get on him, but I did not do that, because I don't think that's a good idea. First of all, he really is tired now. So then asking him to work for me under saddle is probably not going to go very well. And he was so excited when we first got there, more excited than I actually thought he would be, that this is totally a win. The fact that he settled on the ground and was basically well behaved, and now he's settled on the lunge and he's answering my questions, that is enough. I don't need to get greedy and say, okay, now that you're quiet, I'm going to ride you and I'm going to try to walk, trot, and canter, and etc. So the way I want to end this is that he finished lunging. He's getting tired. I don't want to make him really work anymore. But now he has to pay more attention to me for questions on the ground. So the show, it's a 3-ring show, and 2 of the arenas were done with classes at this point. So I'm going to walk him back up there and try to walk him around the arenas. And because he's allowed now, I'm not going to disturb anybody. He's allowed to walk around. And so I'm going to ask the show manager here if that's okay. And he said that was fine. So then he gets to come all the way up here and see these sights, the ring steward's tent and the people sitting at the picnic tables and the dogs, and walk around these arenas and see the flowers and see the PVC pipes and see the tents at the end of the arena, all those things. This is not a very spooky showgrounds. Again, this is why I choose Pinehurst, because they can really see everything, and horses love to be able to see everything, right? Because they're always on the lookout for predators. So a showground that's got a lot of buildings and things come around the corner suddenly, that's not a very baby horse friendly place. But this place is very friendly for baby horses. Nice footing, Not a big show, so pretty relaxed. So I'm going to show him all the letters, and I think we take for granted as trainers that like he's in my arena every day at home. So like, why would he be afraid of letters? But these are different letters. They look different. I don't have PVC pipes on my arena at home. So he needs to see that. The way they do the judges stand at this show is that they just park a car under a tent. So I let him go see the car, smell the car. Now he's a little calmer. I'll give him a treat. And he's allowed to touch everything. Of course, being DW, he wants to bite everything. He wants to grab the flowers out of the pots, and he wants to try to knock the letters over because he's a goober. So we don't allow that. And now I'm going to ask him lots of questions. Halt, walk, rein back, walk on. And now you can see he's really kind of pooped and not nearly as excited about life. So this is good. This is totally a win. He had a good experience. I think he actually enjoyed himself. And I can definitely say that this was a lot for him to take in, but he did great. And next time we're going to take him to an overnight show, which in some ways is easier because then he has a stall that he can relax in. Sometimes trailering in and out is actually a little bit trickier, but it's a good first start. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Subscribe for all the videos, and we'll see you next time.